Well, happy, beautiful, amazing day. Dr. Bob Rakowski here with this edition of the Dr. Bob Rakowski podcast. I have Diego Cocchetti here with me. We've been having a nice conversation. We have a very interesting, similar background. He says he got into coaching kind of by accident, working with elites, being good at that, realizing that the whole body is connected. He connected with Charles Poliquin, first his teachings in 2010, then him personally in 2011. One of my favorite mentors and beings. Sorry, he passed on, but you mentioned you took a seminar with Charles, Biosignature, and it was eye-opening for you. So let's talk about that. What did you learn from that session, and how does it apply literally to everybody you're interacting with today?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bob, for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. Uh, Charles was a great mentor of mine, and I met him in 2011 in Sweden. We were in Amsterdam at the Leico Sports Center. Was that time? Sorry,
Was I there? I'm trying to think of the year I did a Lyco and Homestead with Charles.
you probably were there, but not that year. I don't think it was in 2011. For sure, it was not during the biosignature, the course that I attended to. But yeah, it was the first experience. It was the first time I met him, and the course at that time was 5 days, and the class was packed. For me, it was also the first English course experience that I had. So before that, I started to prepare and study English because for me it was almost a foreign language. But yes, was amazing. I mean, for me, that course was an open-minded because it starts putting together some of the things that to me didn't make sense before, like the why the body can break on the outside, and this happen when something wrong is going on the inside. So if there is some problem, he talked about during the seminar about gut health, about methylation, about the importance of vitamin D. That nowadays everybody talk about vitamin D, but we were talking already 15 and plus years ago, and probably even before. At that time, was interesting that the combination with K2 was not very popular, and even the administration of the vitamin D was more into a big bowel dosage, maybe once or twice a week. And now there are different approaches that are more spread into a weekly and so or daily dosages to combine always with K2 with the multiple benefits that also this fat soluble vitamin has. And then the methylation. A couple of years later, that course, I did my 23andMe genetic test profile, and I went in through the methylation, the genetic polymorphism, all the various NIPs, and I realized that I had this weird mutation that is actually very, very common, especially among the Italian population. I think that the percentage is around 70%, and worldwide is around 50%. So it's growing. It's just a polymorphism. For some reason, we are adapting to something different. And regarding the methylation, how dangerous is folic acid? So the synthetic form of B9 that is present in most of the fortified food, especially for kids and babies. So you start already from the beginning, from a newborn baby, to poison the environment, and then everything grow and grow even worse and worse.
This
So
might be worth expanding upon. So, by the way, I believe it's 1 in 3 people have methylation challenges, especially with 1 in 3 MTHFR, the methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase enzyme. They actually suggest that having a methylation defect might have some survival advantage for either thalassemia or malaria, which are more common in your parts of. But you said some things that are interesting. Probably the first thing I said to Charles that really bonded us. He attended one of the seminars that I did in the early 2000s, and my first philosophy was in the absence of trauma, bodies break down on the inside before they break down on the outside. So he started telling me about his biosignature. He did a brain picking session with me. He said, "Bob, I want you to teach our coaches. You seem to have a good handle on how the endocrine system affects the outside of the body." But for people that want to know that, they used to say years ago that you could not spot reduce fat. So if a lady had fat on her buttocks and couldn't lose just that, they said, no, you can't lose it just there, or men with a belly. But we know you can spot reduce. So do you want to share a little bit about what you learned about biosignature, fat storage, and how to change bodies with that system?
Yeah, I think that the people that do not believe into the spot reduction, the fat loss and spot reduction, is because the scientific research is more towards the analysis of the spot reduction through exercises. So you cannot pick an exercise and say, I want to get lean my triceps doing triceps extensions. This is not going to happen because fat deposit depends on hormones. And we know that, and now even the research has supported this, that, for instance, the most receptor sites for cortisol are located around the belly, and we have insulin receptors on the love handles, and so on and on. So we can actually change the way that our body distribute body fat by manipulating hormones. On the other hand, there are hormones that we have straight control over, like for instance insulin. There are others that we have some control over, like cortisol, and then there are other, again, like estrogens and androgens, or sex hormones in general, that we have some control under specific circumstances. For instance, if we are able to detoxify from toxins, which is a huge problem that we have nowadays. And recently, I made a post on my Instagram about that. Uh, there was something. It's because we don't see a danger doesn't mean that doesn't exist. Okay, and we have the same problem with the cigarette smoke at the beginning of the last century, where they even thought that was beneficial. Even doctors promoted smoking as a good thing. And toxins are everywhere. So if we don't detoxify properly, if we don't reduce toxin exposure in our environments, in our food, and everything else, is impossible, for instance, to get rid of fat around the thighs and uh, yeah, the lower body, where especially women tend to accumulate body fat.
Let me say a few things about that as well. So we realize that men and women store body fat different. And what's the biggest difference? This is more for our audience. It's our hormones. It's the endocrine system. And what Charles Poliquin really liked, the data that I shared, is there's a quote right from the medical literature: regional fat distribution is under endocrine control. And what he did so nicely is he found ways you could measure superficially with a pinch test, caliper test. Look at the thyroid impact, the estrogen impact, the insulin impact, the testosterone impact, the growth hormone impact, and then figure out, looking at the outside, what's going on the inside. And I was beyond impressed at how accurate that seemed to be. So, interestingly enough, we get the elite athletes and they're pretty lean, but yet their body still tells us a lot. What about the people that aren't elite, where they're doing most things wrong? And, seems like, okay, you almost couldn't go wrong picking any better starting point. How do you pick a starting point on the elites and then the less than elites?
Well, it's this is a very interesting point because people do not realize that stress, toxin, malnutrition accumulate over the years. So they wonder themselves, but how come that when I was 20, I was eating this food and I didn't have any problem. I was lean eating this way, and now all of a sudden my metabolism is broken, or um, so it's an accumulation of stress, malnutrition, toxins that it also goes generation by generation. And this is something that nobody can escape, even the athletes. The, the only difference is that elite athletes, uh, in general, have a better understanding of their body, better awareness, and they tend to dedicate, it's just their first priority, their body, their performance. Why normal people tend to have a higher expectation, or they want to perform better in normal life, like for instance work. This is the thing that everybody want to push on. And so what I've seen also among the athletes, especially at the very high level, is that very, very often they take care of their body, but they don't take care of your health,
Mm.
which is a subtle difference because you mentioned actually many times that they conducted a kind of study or a research among elite athletes, and they asked them, are you willing to take
Drop.
performance?
Like,
Yes, performance enhancing drugs to be at the top level, and most of them answered yes, even even if they were jeopardizing and put their life at risk and even dying in a few years. They said yes. So they are willing to push at the very extreme, at the very high level of performance in everything, and this is not sustainable. This is not something that I mm, I I don't want my athletes to do. Never. The focus is on health. If you improve your health, you improve your body composition, you get stronger, you have a longer career, and you perform better.
well, certainly one of the things we've been talking about, I was trying to look up my study on the athletes and there was a famous researcher that did that, and it was such a high number. It was something like 70%. If they could guarantee they win the gold, but they die, they do it anyways, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
Yeah.
pretty crazy, right? So now going back to the difference, the high performing athletes, they can get a lot out of their body without focusing on health. But let's go to the other end. The people that are already broken, they're not doing much with their body at all, you know, but we want them to do it all. We want to bring the body back and deal with stress, toxins, poor nutrition. And I really like how you mentioned the cumulative effects of that or the compound effects. We all know the compounds effects of exercise. You're consistent on a good program, you're going to get better. But let's face it, people are not consistent on a good program with stress, nutrition, and it adds up. And the toxins, they don't even know they're adding up.
Exactly, is a trajectory of where you want to go, right? When you mention many times that the body respond to quality, quantity, time, frequency, duration of a stimuli, it depends what kind of stimuli do you give to the body. If you do the right kind of stimuli, good training, good nutrition, proper recovery, good sleep, everything else, you are going to the right direction. So your body responds nicely to you. Otherwise, if you're going to the opposite, well, you get sick and then you end up taking drugs and yeah.
So, who's your typical client today?
Okay, nowadays I have a broad spectrum of clients. So I train athletes, but nowadays just I would say 15-20% of my group. And this year, one of my cyclists won the European Championship in his class in the gravel UCI World Championship, and that was a very good result because last year he placed second at the same European Championship and was we've been working together for 5 years and he's still improving despite the fact that now he's 49. Okay, so he's competing in in
Very
a
impressive.
master class. Yes, it is because he has still a great room for improvement. And then I trained BMX athletes because BMX was my sport and was thanks to BMX in 2006 when I started coaching, because at that time I won the BMX national championship, and people the local riders started to ask me, "Do you want to coach me? You want to be my coach?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, why not? Why not?" And I was still working my own job because very few people know that about me. I was a truck driver for 10 years. I work in the family business, and then I started studying and so on. And then in 2010, started my journey as a professional coach. The rest of my clients is just people that want to be healthy. So I have older people, but also people that just want to change their body composition. And this is something I changed over the years because at first I wanted to get a very fast transformation, like a big change in 3 months. But then I saw that at least to 25, 30% of them came back to bad habits. And this is to me not a real success. What I want is that they learn through the process, they get results, but they know how to manage their body. It's not like a switch on and off. You have to understand, you have to believe is life a lifestyle change. Is something that you have to change within you, inside you. And so it's becoming more towards the coaching style, more like an education, more like a guide, a guideline, not just give direction, do this, do that, like in the military corps, but it's more like I'm supporting you towards this change. This is to me, it is a big change in my coaching philosophy and approach over the years. It's not my personal achievement to get you the results. If it's not sustainable, if it's not healthy for you, if it's not the right decision for you to do a bodybuilding show or to run your first marathon because your body is not ready, is not healthy, I don't want you to do that. Let's start to make a step by step, recovery the health first, and then we see and enjoy your travel, enjoy your path, your trip in your life.
Well, I love that approach. It makes perfect sense. Quick commercial break. BetterCoffeeShop.com, the world's cleanest reishi infused coffee. BetterShopCoffeeShop.com. Take our one box challenge. See how that works for you. All
Yeah.
right. So if I come to you, I just say I'm not feeling well. You've got a good track record of success. What's our starting point? Do you order certain labs, certain functional tests, physical assessment, history, all the above? What's your starting point?
Yeah, I start with a very, very in-deep questionnaires, set of questionnaires, where I basically try to understand the full history of the client in the past, and then I try to get closer to the actual situation. Like for instance, asking for a 3-day dietary record that I especially use for understanding better their lifestyle, their choice, their the way that they organize, if they do or not, their meals ahead, or if they eat out very often or not, and how much water do they drink, and so on. And that after that, it depends on the client level. Sometimes I start with the nutrition only, especially if are people that never trained in the gym before. So I prefer them to change their nutrition and do one thing at a time. I I always discourage them to do everything from the beginning. Like people start, I want to start on Monday. I want to do everything, train 5 times a week. I do a strict diet, then they crash. This is not the way. Okay. So it's already, let's start to have the same mindset. Let's start already to work together, not just to get some random information and executing. If they train, I analyze their training log. I see if they have progress. I see if they have some pain, some previous injury, and see if there is a problem, for instance, with the structural balance. That is something else I learned from Charles Poliquin. So the very importance of creating a body that is fully structured and balanced, that not only between agonist and antagonist, so between the muscle, but also in the function and the movement itself. And then I provide, of course, if they have a blood chemistry panel, I recently used this kind of interpretation because I mainly work online, so I don't do very often the biosignature skinful measurements like I used to do in the past. But if I work with some clients, or I have also some coaches that I train that have the chance to do some biosignatures, some skinful measurements, I like to interpret the results and help them with an extra tool as well.
Yeah, I want to make a few comments on that. One, when you getting people that are really, really broken, if you ask them to push their body, it's easy to break them. So good job being very, very slow and steady, doing things that they can do. I'm actually quite impressed that you only have 25 to 30% of people that slip back. Most people, they get better, achieve a goal and slide back and start over again. So now, how are you getting them? I guess maybe do they fall in love with the process? Do they fall in love with how they're feeling? Do they see the benefits? What do you think is your secret sauce there? Because most people don't have that good of long lasting success with people.
Yeah, I think that's something very important that many coaches do not take care nowadays is that they want to work on the numbers. So they want to increase the number. They have a lot of results because they get in contact with many clients at the time. While my decision is to select just a few and work with just a restricted number of clients. In this way, I can listen them better. I can fully dedicate my attention to them. So it's important to create a relationship with the clients. And to be honest with you, Dr. Bob, it's not that I always have good results with my clients or a very good connection with them. But the interview that I run at the very beginning for me is very useful to understand. Okay, look, I'm the right person. I mean, I can help you, or otherwise I said, I'm sorry, I can't. Or maybe sometimes I said, I don't think that you are ready to start this. Uh, so it's probably the first step that makes a difference, and how you continue creating the relationship, how you evolve with them, and how can you be supportive in a way that you're truly listening to their needs.
It makes me think I was reading a Navy SEAL book, Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership, and they were taught that there's no bad teams, there's only bad leaders. So we might say there's no bad clients, there's no bad doctors, there's just bad patients or bad trainers, bad doctors. If we can connect with people, get them connected to where they want to go, one of my favorite statements that rings so true is people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And you care enough to make that connection. Now, does that mean do you do anything virtual or is everything you do in person?
No, actually, right now I'm working 100% online.
Okay.
Yeah, because I had my own private studio in Italy, so I worked there for years. But then after COVID, things has changed. I I train online also at the very beginning of my career because some of my athletes were not close to my city hometown, and then I had to communicate with them with emails and programs online. But obviously, the COVID time was a big opportunity, I would say, to help people in a different way. So I gave my equipment to my clients, and we start doing sessions remotely. So on WhatsApp or other Zoom calls and so on. And then I provide them the training program, and I continue giving them the nutrition supplementation plans and everything they need.
Now, I know you do like to do a lot with resistance training, but what do people need then in terms of equipment? Or do you modify, body weight and just other things to get through resistance?
Yeah, it depends on the level. If they never trained before, it's fine to start with body weight exercises, and I always encourage them to buy maybe, for instance, resistance bands or small dumbbells. And if they never trained in a commercial gym before, and they have maybe a little bit of space where they can put their weights with a bench and some dumbbells, is enough. Is enough to start. Is enough to move. If you have a different type of goal, you're obviously more towards to train in a gym. So you go and train in a commercial gym. If you are an athlete, most of my athletes have their home gym. They train at home. I give them advice on the kind of equipment that they need, that they should buy. And yeah, so I also give this kind of consultation, if you want, about the right equipment for you and yeah, to have an effective training, basically.
All right. So we have people that are, their nutrition is not good, their fitness is not good, they're stressed out of their mind, they're very, very toxic. So now what? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, well, if the nutrition part, if even that side had developed quite a bit during the years. I wanted to study a master in nutrition, but then at some point I said, "Come on, here I'm not learning anything about nutrition. What I'm doing here?" Nutrition, in my opinion, has to be very simple because we as humans we should know how to eat like any other animals in the planet. Unfortunately, we are more prone to be affected by the commercials, affected by what we see in the grocery stores, and by our emotions. So we don't eat anymore because we need to feed ourselves. But for humans, is also a socialization opportunity, an opportunity to socialize and to meet people and to stay with people. If you stay with the right people, then everything is going to the right direction. If you hang out with people that do not care about their health, they not care about their nutrition, for sure you're not following a good diet. So the thing that I wanna focus when I change something on the under the nutrition aspect is food quality. Food quality and try to make the right choice. I always tell them don't try to be perfect. Strive for improvement. Try to get better every time you have the chance to. And so yeah, what I've seen is obviously, especially among Italians, is that the protein consumption is very low, and most of them are very afraid of eating meat, especially red meat, without any reason for. But I can understand all the advertising and on the things that come out about speaking bad about high quality, because this is important, red meat. And so if you want to break into the details about nutrition, I usually start with what Charles always taught us. So to have a good amount of protein first thing in the morning, because this will sustain the immune system, the detoxification process, and also stimulate the most important neurotransmitters like dopamine and acetylcholine that are involved into attention span, motivation. And this is the right way to start your day, right? Rather than to be sleepy and hungry after just 2 hours. And the other thing I want to add is some sort of good fat. So, for instance, avocado. In Italy, we have a very good extra virgin olive oil, but can be organic butter or ghee, whatever, and a good coffee, and that's it. And you jump up your day and you start an amazing day. So the rest of the meals are pretty much the same, but we work around the carbohydrates intake based on your activity level, based on your insulin sensitivity, your goals, your body composition. Charles was very, very strict on the carbohydrates consumption. If you're not below 10% body fat as a male or 16% as a woman, you shouldn't afford any carbs at all. And the subscapular skin fold has to be below 10 millimeters. But everything in biology is a longer continuum. So it means that even these markers are not just a switch on and off, but there is a nuance in between, and there is a genetic predisposition. So there are people that do not lose any weight at all if they quit eating carbs. And I can say that I'm the lucky one, so I need to eat some of those. But I also earn my carbs over the years, because here again we come from the consistency for we come to the continuous improving on your health and try to get better day by day.
Oh, great tips there. Jack LaLanne, I think he said it best. If God made it, it's okay. If man made it, stay away. That keeps it pretty
I
simple.
love it.
When you start talking about carbs, a lot of elite athletes handle carbs well, and they're lean and they're strong. And if you don't eat them, then you're actually going to break down lean mass because you don't have enough calories to maintain it. It's hard to do the fat and protein. The amazing thing about protein, it comes from the Greek word, which means of primary importance. Now we got a whole bunch of the world doing high protein carnivore type diets, and we're seeing for a lot of those people huge, huge, huge benefits. One of my favorite Charles metaphors was he says, imagine you're trapped on an island, all alone, deserted island. He says, all you have to eat is carbs. Well, in a year, they come back and they find your dead corpse. All you had to eat was protein. You're there. Your diabetes goes away. You finish. You've got not a six pack, but an eight packs of abs. Your blood pressure is normal, and you feel like $1,000,000 because you're giving your body what it needs. And it's kind of amazing that the world has been sold the idea that real food is not real good for you, and the opposite's true. Real food is really all that we should eat.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Even the ancient Egypts start to develop, were the first culture to start develop some disease like decay or very weak bones because of the agriculture, the extensive use of the agriculture and eating grains and reducing the meat consumption and so on. So, yeah, it's always been there. So, how come then now is bad?
Great.
Anyway. And among athletes, here is the other thing that sometimes they believe that they can afford everything because they burn a lot of calories. But very often they realize when they start working with me that they need actually way less calories. Why? Because body doesn't recognize the calories, but recognize the nutrients. So if you provide the body the good nutrients, needs less calories. So translate into less food, into a better digestion, clear mind, and so on, and better health in general.
Yeah, well, the things that you just mentioned are things that everybody wants, and most of them don't tie it to their food. Maybe the excess body fat they do, but if you're having gut challenges, if you're inflamed, if you're not as happy as you want, if your thoughts are not as clear, then often we start with the gut. So, I'm looking where I can't believe 30 minutes has gone already. That's about the magic time that we go. So, what key points do you want our listeners to leave with here and now? And what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Well, people can reach me out through social medias. So I have my Instagram profile, coach_DC, and my Facebook bot page and private profile that can reach me out there is Diego Cocchetti. And then I have my website, diegocochetticoach.com, where I also post. I mean, if they are interested in what I say and what I do, and we are on the same page, Dr. Rob, on many, many, many things. So I like to share this kind of information because it's important that people are aware of what is going around and what they truly need to get their life and health better.
Well, I love that message. You start looking at it, there's so many things that we recognize. Everything that happens on the inside affects the outside. If you know how to look at the outside, whether it's biosignature, good physical exam, whatever you're doing, you get a lot of insight into the inside. And we know what we've been teaching in natural medicine, functional movement, for as long as those terms have been around, we're finding all the science is leading in the right direction. We got to eat right for what our body wants. We got to move right for what our body wants. And then everything else will start coming into place. We can throw in sleep and detox and all parts of the Magnificent Seven. This has been an epic conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for making our wonderful world better. What you share is what I believe the world exactly needs. And you're part of the reason why coaches and good trainers are my number one referral. You actually spend more time with people than any healthcare provider, and you live health. And by the way, if you have a trainer that doesn't look healthy, you might want to pick a different trainer, right? So, congratulations on being healthy, fit, elite, for constantly raising the bar and helping so many.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here with you tonight.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you, Diego.